Most artists think drawing is just practice for painting. But what if I told you that drawing could actually become the most addictive part of your art journey? In this video, I'm gonna share the one mindset shift that completely transformed my drawing, and honestly, it's my dirty little secret as a painter. If you've ever struggled to stay consistent with drawing, maybe you start sketchbooks but never finish them, or you get overwhelmed because you don't know what to draw, you're not alone. I was the same. I considered myself a painter, but the truth is, I secretly loved drawing even more. And when I found a way to make my drawings look painterly, combining ink, tempera, oils, and mixed media all from the natural earth pigments, something just clicked. My drawings started to flow, and they became even more satisfying than painting itself. Hi, I'm Dani. I'm an artist obsessed with exploring the divine feminine through portraits and figure drawings. In this video, I'm going to share the mindset shift that will make you fall in love with drawing, stay consistent, and even create a portfolio you can proudly exhibit. Stick with me because this one shift might change everything for you. And if you want to go deeper into mastering your creativity, check out my free masterclass in the link below. Here's the truth. I'm a painter who spends more time drawing. My dirty little secret is that I make my drawings look like paintings. So this happened after my first art exhibition. I used to paint with traditional oil paints. I realized that my art style, my art voice, was not completely expressed in all of my paintings for the exhibition, only a side of it, but I knew something was missing. So after that, I began a phase that I was just experimenting with all of these different art mediums and art forms. And I discovered my love for charcoal and drawing, which was something I did always enjoy and love, but it was a little bit repressed because I just believe I had to paint in a more fine artsy kind of way, using the traditional oil paints and acrylics. So I began experimenting with charcoal, completely fell in love, and charcoal was actually the medium that opened its way for another world, which was the world of natural earth pigments. So I started to get curious about how I could make my own paints and inks, and this exploration became an obsession. So inspired by cave paintings and some of the mystical art that you can find here in the south of France, I began a journey. And this journey led me to finding my voice and actually my calling as an art educator, sharing all of my findings, because I literally tapped into the ancient way of painting that has kind of been forgotten. So basically, our first ancestors, they painted through drawing. They were drawing with the charcoals and then mixing all of these interesting mediums. They would use a lot of ochres, which are these red pigments found in rocks all over, and also they would use blood and plants and just anything that they would find in nature. They would transform it into paint, into these ritualistic cave paintings that we see all around here. As I live here in the south of France, around where I live, there is all of the sacred sites of the first paintings of the world that are documented in all of the art history books. So I've been to Lascaux. I was able to see the cave paintings and also learn a little bit more about them, as it has become a museum and research center. So basically, the shamans would create beautiful rituals with these paintings in Lascaux, and they were using all of these incredible earth pigments. At the time, there were no art shops or acrylics or oil paints, so all of the paints were made from scratch, from materials found in nature and also blood. So the most ancient way of painting is actually drawing, and it's not less than painting. And I actually learned from my art teacher, Ellie Milan, that the best painters can draw really well. So first, above anything, master drawing. And if you master drawing, then you will master painting, and you can make your drawings look painterly, if that is a word. When you look up the sketchbooks of all of our favorite artists, they were drawing, and these drawings were the bones of their paintings. But you can just draw and make your drawing look like paintings. This is what I've learned through my own experiments and experience. But here's the part that really changed everything, and it's the reason I got addicted to drawing. The secret isn't about materials or technique. It's about what you choose to draw. So the important thing is to pick one subject only and to draw it again and again. So for me, it was painting women. I paint portraits of women and figures, which is what my work is about. I basically paint the stories of the divine feminine that have been forgotten, because my belief is that we need the heroine's journey to bring balance back to our world, and how the heroine's journey journey is the medicine that our world needs to get back to that Gaia consciousness and path of the heart, path of awakening that the Rosicrucians talk about. So according to positive psychology, having a clear goal is key to motivation. So choosing one subject makes progress measurable. It also helps you to imagine a portfolio as if preparing for an exhibition. So imagine that you are creating a portfolio. I have actually a video on how to create a portfolio that you can find here in my channel, and pretend that you are preparing for an exhibition. So stay consistent, draw one subject every day. One of my close artist friends loves to paint. She says big cats, so she just keeps painting cheetah, jaguars, leopards, big cats, and has really mastered getting really good at painting this one subject, which is big cats, as she says. And also she paints animals in general, but you can really see in her work that her big cats are phenomenal because she had a clear goal. She chose one subject and made progress by acquiring the skill of getting better and better of mastering that one subject. According to positive psychology, having a clear goal is key to motivation. Choosing one subject makes progress measurable. It also helps you imagine a portfolio as if preparing for an exhibition. And speaking of exhibitions, that's another secret to staying consistent with drawing. So most people don't finish their drawings because there's no finish line. So imagine your series as if it were going to hang in a gallery. It can be even a local cafe or even your home. You can have an exhibition at home. Set this goal and it will bring you purpose. This is the number one thing that helped me to get consistent with my art practice. So what happened is that I only had 6 canvases of artwork. I applied to the biggest art exhibition in France and got in. After I got in, the reality hit that I only had 6 tiny canvases and that I needed to have more canvases for my exhibitions. So I was forced to work like crazy, and having a deadline, this obligation, made me become a consistent artist. That goal gave me purpose. So creating with the intention of showing your work transforms your practice into a project with an end point. And that fuels consistency. But none of this matters unless you master one thing that all great artists focus on. The secret sauce is values. So forget perfect proportions. Forget fancy techniques. Values are everything. So what are values? Values are all of the shades of gray between the darkest blacks and the whitest whites. It's how you see shadow and light. When I first went to art school in my 20s, I was at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. I hated sitting down in the classroom, looking at a piece of cloth hanging on the wall and having to draw all of the different shadows and light that could be seen on that piece of cloth. I only wish that my teacher at the time had explained the importance of this exercise, because there was no explanation to why we were doing that exercise. It was just, okay, sit down and draw this piece of cloth. But I did not understand that that is the secret sauce. That is what makes a cartoon and a portrait a portrait. A cartoon is flat. There are no dimensions, no shading, but a portrait has all of these different nuances of shade. So I used to struggle with values, and now I have to say, after mastering working with values, I absolutely love to spend hours just working on the values of my drawings. I love working on every nuance, looking for any subtle little shadow under the eye or under the nose, just to make that drawing come to life. Values give drawing that professional painterly look. They make work feel alive, even more than color. But here's where I'll share something controversial, and it might surprise you. Every big Instagram artist has a dirty little secret too, and it's not talent. Many use projectors or tracing to get proportions right. Far from cheating, it helps you learn faster by freeing you to focus on values. A projector actually trains your eye to see. It's like stabilizers on a bike. You'll draw better over time because your brain learns correct proportions, and it also gives your work that photographic aesthetic collectors love. In the beginning, I did not want to work with projectors. I would spend hours on proportions, and that's fine, but that is a lot of time that you spend just trying to get the proportions right. Where you should actually spend your valuable time is learning the values. So learning how to draw is important. I still practice a lot my drawing skills, but I've come to realize that in order to produce more works of art, I use a very cheap projector. It's even a little bit blurry. I should eventually buy a better projector, and it's good to buy a cheap, blurry projector because it actually just shows you a little bit of the position of where everything needs to be in your drawing. And this way you have the position of the eyes, the nose, just mapped out in your canvas or paper. And then you can spend time looking at your model and drawing. This is quite a meditative process to be able to have everything mapped out. And what I mean mapped out is just an idea of where everything is. That's how bad my projector is. I do want to invest in a good one, but this was actually the best thing to really teach me how to get proportions better. I began to draw better after working with a projector. So even when I draw completely without a projector at all, I already have a map in my brain from working so long with projectors and for having projectors map out so perfectly the position of everything. And so I highly recommend using a projector to learn how to draw. And if you don't have a projector, you can trace photographs onto a piece of paper and then spend hours drawing on top of that map. So most artists on Instagram, you can see that they start their canvas. It's not completely blanked. There is that map there for them already traced on their canvas, and then they're just painting over that. And even my teacher, Ellie Milan, talks about her projector, her daughter, Dimitra Milan. I believe all of the Milans use a projector, and most of my favorite artists on Instagram talk openly about using a projector. So don't think of it as cheating, think of it as a tool to map out your proportions. So if you've ever felt guilty about tracing, here's your permission slip. It's not cheating, it's training. Once I applied this mindset shift, everything changed. My drawings began to flow. I built a Divine Feminine series that I am proud of, and I became completely addicted to drawing. So the mindset shift is to turn your drawing into a project. You choose one subject, you create with the goal of an exhibition, and you focus on values, even using a projector to learn. This way, drawing stops feeling like homework and starts feeling like a lifelong passion, like what happened to me. So to wrap up, what we learned is that the mindset shift is simple. Turn your drawing into a project. Stop thinking of drawing as a random practice. And if you want to go deeper into mastering your creativity, check out my free masterclass in the link below.